On this episode of Crime Scenes with Coffee Beans, join me as I discuss the tragic murder of 11-year-old Ivy Mitchell, and the man who was found guilty of her murder supposedly haunts the jail where he was hanged. Coming up after this, guys, so don't go away. Hi everyone, and welcome to Crime Scenes with Coffee Beans, True Aussie Murders Caffeinated. I'm your host, Belinda Brady, and welcome guys. Welcome to episode 21 titled Last Man Hanging, the Murder of Ivy Mitchell. Now, I will go straight off the bat here. This episode discusses child rape and murder. If you find this upsetting, listener discretion is advised. Now, straight up to, I will go to my sources. I've got trove.nla.gov.au, mypolice.queensland.gov.au, www.findagrave.com, paperspast.natlib.gov.nz, and dailymail.co.uk. Now, I also want to say a call out to some listeners who have joined me from all over the world. We have some who have joined me from Jackson in North Carolina. We have some who have joined me from Bangkok. Love Bangkok, one of my favorite places. Santa Fe, New Mexico. Springfield, Virginia, and of course we have some Aussies, Hobart, Tasmania. Yay, I love that you guys have joined me. Thank you, Tassie. Melbourne, Brisbane, Sydney. No one from WA yet, no one from Perth. Let's get on that, guys. And of course, Houston, Texas. Now, if you are enjoying these episodes, please get the word out there. I'd love for you to get the word out there, and I'd love for you to get in contact with me. I won't bite, I promise. Send me a text, send me an email. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. I do respond to comments there. You can leave a comment on Spotify, I believe. There are many ways you can get in contact with me, so please don't be shy. I'd love to hear from you guys. Now, let's jump straight into this episode. Oh, sorry, I nearly forgot what I'm drinking. Okay, I am drinking a vanilla latte that I got from a local cafe this morning, and it is so good. Right amount of vanilla, right amount of caffeine. I love it. And whatever you guys are up to, wherever you are listening to me from, whether you're at home, you're at work, you're at the gym, you are driving, no matter what you are doing, I hope you are caffeinated. I hope you are comfy. Hope you've got something you can drink, and lend me your ears as we dive right into episode 21, Last Man Hanging, the Murder of Ivy Mitchell. Now, the murder of a child is never an easy thing to discuss or research, but we owe it to the victims to keep their memory alive. And hopefully by doing so, we become aware that these things do happen, and we can, as a community, help to keep our children safe. Now, the murder in question, the murder I'm going to talk about, took place in a different time where predators weren't even thought of. And if they were never spoken of. And as a result, a young girl lost her life. The man in question, who is also said to haunt the jail where he was hanged, which I, of course, will be talking about later on, had form. And when I say that, I mean he had previous history of sexually assaulting a young child. And it's sad to think that if this crime occurred today, the young girl who ended up being murdered might have been spared, but it didn't, and she wasn't. So we're going to talk about her. So join me, guys, as we travel back to Samford, Queensland, Australia, and to the year 1913. Samford, Queensland is a town in southeast Queensland. And as of 2006, according to the statistics collected, it has a population of around 656 people. There were no statistics to speak of. No statistics were recorded prior to 2001. So it's a small country town. Samford Provisional School opened in 1872, and in 1919 the O'Hara Hotel opened. In 1908, banana growing on the steep ridges of the ranges that surrounded the area was one of the most important industries. And after World War One, the government created additional small farms so returning servicemen with limited money could get their start in the industry. So, as you can gather, it's a small town, but it is rich in history. And sadly, it is the home of a brutal murder. Ivy Mitchell was born on the 10th of January 1902 in Grafton, New South Wales, to parents James and Jensine Mitchell, and she had 5 siblings. Now, I couldn't find a great deal of info on Ivy's mum and dad, but I can tell you that Ivy's mum died in 1912 at the young age of 46 before Ivy was murdered, and her dad James died in 1938 at the age of 66. So both mum and dad didn't live long lives. And James remarried a woman named Mary the year after his daughter was murdered. Before this, however, James and his family lived on a farm in Cedar Creek where they lived and worked. On the 8th of June 1913 at around 9 a.m, James, his wife and Ivy left the farm where they were headed to a family friend's place by the name of Mr. Lawson. And when they arrived, they took Ivy to the neighbouring farm of a Mr. Fritsch, and I do hope I've said that right, so Ivy could play with her friend 7-year-old Mary. Now, the farms in question weren't too far from each other, and they were connected by dirt roads. So it was a road Ivy had walked many times before. She knew how to get home. And when Ivy decided it was time to head home just as the sun was starting to set, her friend Mary walked her halfway and then returned to her home, leaving Ivy to walk the remaining short distance by herself. When Ivy's brother, also called James, noticed his sister was not home by dark at about 6 o'clock, he grabbed a hurricane lantern and walked to the Frisch farm, where he was told his sister had left a few hours earlier. Panicked, James ran home and told his family that Ivy, where is she? And James and his dad set out, both with hurricane lanterns, returning to the Frisch farm, and they started following the little shoe prints in the dirt that Ivy had left behind on her walk. This was at around 6:30 p.m. The pair retraced the steps of Ivy and eventually found that one set of footprints joined hers. They were bigger, and they followed the footprints to the thick scrubland behind the school. So both Ivy's little feet and the bigger feet led to the school, which wasn't too far from where Ivy had set off. They saw some grass that had been crushed, like something had been dragged through it. And then they found Ivy's little body in the scrub, her throat cut. Examination would later confirm that the young girl had also been raped. Now, near her body, they found hoof marks from a horse and part of a riding crop indicating that the killer had fled on horse. Now, the grisly discovery caused the police to be dispatched by car. Now, you got to remember, guys, this was 1913. Cars weren't everywhere like they are now, and horse and cart and horse was the main form of transport. And they began questioning locals. Now, most of them said they saw Ivy on her own or walking with her young friend Mary, but a young labourer by the name of Alexander Gordon, who was near the school at around 5:30 the night of the murder, said something different. Alexander had been picking oranges from the school's orange tree, and he saw a man roaring past him on horseback. Now, the rider even recognised Alexander and bid him a good night as he roared past. Alexander named the man in question as Ernest Austin. In between questioning locals, police also had the sense to take plaster prints of the shoe prints found at the scene. Remember, no DNA then, guys. And this would prove to be an absolute crucial move. Police had a name and they had a man who was just put at the scene of the crime, but just who was Ernest Austin? Who was the man they were now looking at? Ernest Austin was born on the 12th of August 1890 in Victoria, and by an early age, as often was the case back then, he had an established criminal history, which started when he was living in Victoria. At just 11 years old, he was caught stealing and was sent to the Neglected Children's Department, and in 1909, he was convicted for assault with intent to rape, where he dragged a 12-year-old girl into a shed whilst brandishing an axe, only to run when the girl screamed for her life. So not only was he a seasoned young criminal, he was a budding sex offender. And for the attack on the 12-year-old girl, he served 3 years in Melbourne jail and was released when he had served his time. Somehow he ended up in Samford, Queensland, where he had picked up work as a labourer on a farm. On the night of Ivy's murder, several witnesses claimed they saw Austin riding past on a horse, and when he returned to the cabin that he shared with another worker, he apparently had blood on his shirt and trousers and a cut on his finger. He also spent a good chunk of the night removing the actual soles from his boots using a tool called a pincer that he grabbed from the blacksmith shop that was on the property. And he also asked the colleague that he shared the cabin with, where can I find one? So not only was Austin an evil man, but not a smart one, because if he'd been a bit more discreet with those soles, he may have had more time to skip town. But he wasn't. And unbeknownst to him, those soles were secretly handed to police the day after Ivy's murder. So someone grabbed them and gave them to the cops. And when it was discovered that they matched the prints left at the scene, remember the bigger footprints, bigger shoe prints matching Ivy's little ones, not matching alongside Ivy's little ones, it placed Austin at the murder scene. And they needed no more. He was arrested and charged with Ivy's murder on the 10th of June. Police alleged he grabbed Ivy once she was walking by herself, so once she had left Mary and was walking on her own, raped her and cut her throat, leaving her partially covered with her clothing. Police also alleged he washed his bloody hands in the school's water tank before fleeing on horse. Now, microbiologist Dr. John Farris confirmed that he found blood on Austin's boots, saddle, pocket knife, cap, shirt and trousers, so he was basically covered in Ivy's blood. And witnesses also state they saw 3 small scratches on his face, like they had been made by small nails. When questioned about the blood, Austin stated that he was killing calves that morning, and that is where the blood came from. Now, Austin's so-called employer, the man that Austin named as his employer, a farmer by the name of Christian Hansen, stated Austin had left his employ on the 5th of June and had not been killing calves for him the day of Ivy's murder. He was quickly convicted of her rape and murder and was sentenced to death by hanging in September of that year, so a mere 3 months after Ivy's murder. Like I've said in previous podcasts, when I cover crimes from this era, we did not muck around. The time from the actual crime being committed to the person being executed was 6 months, if that. Mind-blowing stuff. So at 8 a.m. on the 22nd of September 1913, Austin was walked to the gallows at Boggo Road Jail. Newspapers at the time reported he went quietly and firmly, a passage from the Bible being read as he did. He stood on the trapdoor, noose just above him, and when he was asked if he had any last words, he did, and the newspaper at the time reported him as saying, "I say straight out that I highly deserve this punishment. I did not know what I was doing at the time when it happened. I did not know what I was doing. I will say this, I dropped that bit of leather near the Parker State School and I was going to the Samford Hotel. I comes back, has a cup of tea at Hanson's. Next I stopped, and this is where I done for myself. I have asked the Lord to forgive me for all my faults, and he has done so. I thank Major Wilson. He has been with me every day last week. He has prayed for me and I have answered his prayers. I have made sorrow for my brother and sister, and not only for my own people but for the father of the child. I feel very sorry for him. I have asked God to forgive me and he has done so. I thank the captain, and at this, he paused and nodded towards the superintendent standing just below him. Yes, Captain Pearson. Here he stopped and trembled, but recovered himself and kept talking. I thank you for your kindness. Captain, since I've been here, and I hope you will forgive me. I hope you will all live long and die happy, warders and all. God be with you. I did not know I would come to this grief that Sunday. No, I do not think I would come to this. It seems like the world's temptation. I dropped that little bit of leather first coming down. I ask you all to forgive me. I ask the Samford people to forgive me. I ask my mother to forgive me. May you all live long and die happy. God save the King. Now, at this point, the hangman pulled the white cap over his face, but he still kept talking. God save the King, he yelled. God be with you all. Send a wire to my mother and tell her I died happy, won't you? Now the chief warden answered, all right. And then Austin continued, yes, tell her I died happy with no fear. Goodbye all, goodbye all. And with that, the executioner pulled the lever and Austin fell to his death, the noose wrapped tightly around his neck. Austin was the last prisoner executed in the state of Queensland because on the 31st of July 1922, some 9 years after Austin was hanged, Queensland became the first state in Australia and the Commonwealth to abolish the death penalty. And that law still stands to this very day. He was buried in South Brisbane Cemetery, and it is interesting to note that inmates who witnessed his execution claim Austin was anything but calm, as the papers at the time had reported, and was laughing hysterically when the noose was placed around his neck. Who's to say? I think even if that was the case, I don't think the papers at the time would have reported it. Ivy Mitchell is buried at Samford Cemetery and her mum and dad are at rest in Toowong and North Rockton Cemetery, respectively. Now, I promised you guys a ghost story, and a ghost story you shall get. Now, Austin is said to haunt the jail where he died, Boggo Road Jail, and to this day you can do a ghost tour at the jail and maybe run into his ghost yourself. But as of recording this podcast, the jail is closed for upgrades, but I do believe they are going to reopen. And it hasn't had inmates for quite some time, but when it did have inmates, they did report sightings of a ghost warder, which is another word, Australian word for warden. Other countries call them wardens, we call them warders. Now, apparently, there have been reported sightings of a ghost warder, that of Bernard Ralph, a prison warder who unfortunately had his head smashed in with an iron bar by a prisoner in 1966. Now, other prison warders who have been on night shift report seeing a senior prison warder give them a salute as they walk past, like, how's it going type thing, and keep on walking, no conversations. When they question their colleagues about, hey, who was the senior person on last night, they're told there was no senior person on that night. Now, prison warders also reported seeing a thick fog rolling into the cell block number 2 from the nearby cemetery, and apparently anyone who got near this fog became horribly, horribly ill. Now, the man in question, Austin, is the oldest ghost said to haunt the jail, and staff and folks on ghost tours have reported seeing his ghost in the E Wing cell block, where he reportedly walks through walls from one cell to the next. And inmates also reported the same thing when there was inmates there. Now, on an absolute side note, have any of you listeners done this ghost tour? And if you have, did you see anything? Did you experience anything? I would absolutely love to hear from you. This stuff is so up my alley. Please let me know how you went. So that's a wrap, guys. A wrap on the young girl who was walking home from a play date with a friend, something she had done several times before, only to be stalked and murdered by a sexual predator who thought his sick wants and needs outweighed her right to live. Thank you for listening. You are all absolute rock stars. And again, if you have any crimes, anything you would like me to cover, please reach out to me. I love hearing from you guys. And again, if you have done this ghost tour of Boggo Road Jail, please let me know. And if you have any ghost tours you would like to tell me about, please let me know. Again, I love this stuff. And again, if you have any crimes you would like me to cover, please let me know. And I hope you are enjoying these podcasts as much as I am enjoying putting them together. And until next time, guys, thank you so much for lending me your ears. Until next time, you've been listening to Crime Scenes with Coffee Beans, True Aussie Murders Caffeinated. Stay safe, stay cool, and stay caffeinated. I will catch you all later.